Today, the unique airsoft gun lovers are really going to like this one because it's pretty unique, and I personally really do enjoy the look of it. This is the APS UAR, or Urban Assault Rifle Airsoft AEG, in black, also available in tan, and today we do have the review. If you're interested in purchasing it after you watch the video, there'll be a link down below in the description to AirsoftStation.com where you can pick it up for about $205. Now with that being said, let's hop right into the review. By going over the gun's packaging. The outside of the box isn't very colorful, but it actually looks kind of cool with the black and gray contrast. When you actually open up the box to take a look inside, you'll find your gun is packaged actually very well and all of its accessories tucked away rather neatly. I actually removed a lot of the packaging so you could actually see the gun. It's kind of packaged like an egg, and even has kind of egg carton style cardboard underneath of it, so I doubt this thing's going to get damaged during shipping. Inside the box, you'll have your UAR owner's manual. Definitely take a read through. An upgrade spring. According to the packaging, this is actually equivalent to an M130 spring, so that's kind of cool they give it to you. Standard stuff like a small pack of BBs as well as an unjamming rod. Two pretty interesting looking M4 high capacity plastic magazines. And of course, your APS UAR itself. Now, my first impression, honestly, when I pulled it out of the box, this thing feels kind of cheap. It's got weight to it, but it certainly does feel cheap and plasticky, and a good reason for that is because it is primarily composed of plastic, which, to give it a pro, is that this is more so designed for CQB. You know, plastic's lighter than metal, so it's lighter, more maneuverable in that close quarter environment when you're playing airsoft games. But certainly taking that into consideration, it did feel pretty cheap when I pulled it out of the box, and it does have a pretty plasticky feel to it. It feels like it's primarily made of some ABS plastic, not quite as solid as some of the polymers I've handled, so I dumb it down to maybe a little bit lower than that. I could imagine it cracking. It feels a little bit cheap in some areas, most notably back in this sort of cheek rest area. That's actually jiggling around and kind of falling apart, as you can see directly when I pulled it out of the box. The rest of the weapon is, again, primarily made of plastic. That includes all your 4 RAS rails, your upper and lower receiver, your grip, your trigger guard, your magazine, your whole buttstock area back here. Metal pieces are mainly the little extremities on here. You've got your outer barrel. That orange tip is obviously plastic as well. All the screws holding the gun together, your mag release, your trigger, your fire selector switch, your sling mount. Like I said, just the little pieces are metal, primarily a big plastic gun. So that is something to take in consideration. It certainly does feel pretty cheap to me. But that being said, it does have a solid weight to it. Being a bullpup, all your mechanisms are back here, so it's very back heavy, and you certainly do feel it when you pick it up. As far as internals go, obviously it's a metal gearbox, version 3 if I'm correct, and the advantage to this bullpup system is that you still have this nice compact gun, but your inner barrel stretches all the way back here towards your magazine in the back, giving you a longer inner barrel, so you get that longer range and a little bit better accuracy in a shorter form than having to carry around a bigger, longer gun. So that's the main thing that the whole design of this weapon has going for it. Yes, it's lighter and more maneuverable, but overall, the thing I want to stress here in this portion of the video, it does feel kind of cheap. One thing that's certainly important to discuss with this weapon's internals as well is a very easy to access quick change spring system. That's why they give you that extra M130 if you wanted to pop the stock spring out where it fires around 350 FPS and pop in a new one. In order to access this area, all you have to do is pop at a pin, slide off the butt pad, and there you have your quick change spring area, which you can go ahead and easily swap out your spring. It's really a convenient option, and you could probably easily do this in the field. Now, one other thing it wouldn't be fair to not discuss with the weapon would be a very easy disassembly and assembly system that I would demonstrate to you, but 3 reasons. A, it's very detailed, explained in the manual. B, I'm outside in the woods, don't want to lose any parts. And C, it's a gun on loan for me to review, therefore I don't want to risk damaging it and disassembling it. But the process is very simple. Basically what you do is pop out 3 main body pins, unscrew your muzzle up here, pop off your upper receiver, and voila, you're in your gearbox. Something an experienced airsofter with the gun could probably do in less than 60 seconds. So a quick disassembly and then obviously rather quick reassembly is great for any field operations that need to be performed rather quickly in the staging area at your local game. So a quick disassembly process, always a pro. Now another metal piece on the gun, again another little bit here, is actually having to do with your battery, and this is a big feature, so let's start off with that first. It's this sort of point right there, and behind this is where all your wiring is and stuff, where you'd store your battery. In order to pull this out, you're supposed to squeeze in on the sides. They're very tight slits, so if you have larger fingers, it's going to be a little difficult to do, but then you'd carefully pull this piece out. And inside, you would reveal your wires and small type connector. So battery space on this gun is pretty limited. It's designed to take stick type batteries, but the good news is I did have a 7.4 volt 1100 milliamp LiPo in there, a little thin one, and it fit very easily and great. So if you can't fit a 9.6 in here, stick type, you don't want to bother having to cram that in, definitely go for one of those thinner LiPos. Like I said, small type connector, and this battery's pretty easy to change. I could definitely see you being able to do it in the field, provided you don't have a big, long, clunky battery you got to drag out of there each time. Once you've got your battery installed, you simply reverse the process, taking this and carefully sliding it in. Alright, now as far as once you get the battery installed, obviously you can go ahead and shoot this thing. As far as operating your different fire modes go, you do have a fire selector switch, obviously. It is ambidextrous, being located not only on the left side shown here, but also on the right side of the gun shown here. Now this selector switch, as you can tell, kind of looks a little wonky and weird, kind of cool to go with the rest of the gun. And overall, it's a decent selector switch. It's got your standard 3 settings you can find on your standard AEG. When pushed all the way to the top, you'll find safe. Switch it to the middle. Here you'll actually find full auto, and if you were to switch it all the way to the bottom, you would be on semi-automatic. Now as far as the selector switch's, quality goes, it feels pretty solid. I noticed it actually requires a little bit of force to move. I've had a couple instances where I thought I moved it upward to full auto and it was still on semi, so getting stuck between the settings a little bit. And once you're on full auto, it does take a little bit of extra force to get it back on safe. So just something to take into note, it's a little bit of force to move it. It's not an easy transition, and also a couple instances for me getting stuck between settings. It does its job though, switching the fire modes. Just in front of the fire selector switch, you'll find a magazine release, one of 3 on the gun. This one's located on the right side of the AEG, the next located in the identical same place on the left side of the AEG, and the final one located back on the slope just in front of the weapon's magazine. When you push it in, the magazine just drops right out, so be prepared to catch it. And with all those magazine releases on the gun, really you should be able to eject your mag no matter what shooting position you're in. They're actually pretty convenient, one of the things I like most about the weapon. Now the included magazines, you do get 2 of them, which is always a nice bonus, or what they call U-mags, as you can tell by the kind of engraving here, stating these are Katsu U-mags or Airsoft training purpose only, that type of stuff. They look kind of cool on the mag. Basically they're little M4 mags that hold about 150 to 200 rounds each, making them high capacity magazines. They work just like your standard high cap. You'd go ahead and open that trap door, fill the reservoir, wind the gear down at the bottom, and then the BBs would feed upward through the top. The mags do have a nice look to them that definitely goes well with the UAR, and they feed decently, semi-automatic pretty well. However, full auto, this gun does have a couple feeding issues with a slightly higher rate of fire. You really got to crank these mags. However, a bonus to this gun is that it does take your standard M4 mag as well, so you could always pop some standard mid caps or low caps in this for a little bit better feeding. Overall, the magazines aren't too bad and they certainly do look cool. When they're in the gun, there really isn't any wobble whatsoever. Alright, now as far as tactical features go in the UAR, it's kind of hard to overlook its whole RAS covered front handguard there. You do get plenty of rails for customization option. The longest one up top, that's obviously where you want to put some kind of optic. One thing the gun does lack directly out of the box is any form of sight, so I'd certainly recommend you pick up a scope or a red dot or something that would look nice in this weapon. You do have 2 side rails, one on the left and the right. With these are 4s if you wanted to put some kind of PEC box. You could probably do an external mounted battery on this weapon, or a laser or a flashlight or something like that. You do have a small rail underneath for you to go ahead and mount a foregrip, maybe some kind of small grenade launcher if you wanted to, or a flashlight or some other accessory down there as well. The point is you get all these rails, why not customize the gun, make it look even cooler? Something that I find very cool about the UAR as well would actually be kind of a hidden compartment inside its pistol grip here. Basically, if you push in, you can actually pull out the bottom, and as you can see, it's got kind of a weird casing and look to it. What this is actually for is for batteries. If you needed to carry spare batteries with you to go ahead and power one of your sights or flashlights or something like that, well, you've got them and you can go ahead and easily store them inside the pistol grip of the UAR. No need to take up extra space inside your vest. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at this gun's hop-up unit. When you pull back the weapon's charging handle, it does actually activate a bolt catch, as you can see, and when that's locked back, you can go ahead and take a quick look at your hop-up. Now here you can get kind of a glimpse of your weapon's hop-up unit in there. It doesn't look like any traditional gear or anything like that, not even really the slider. It's almost like a black ruler that you'd slide forward or back in order to increase or decrease your hop-up. Now someone actually commented on my teaser video complaining about the hop-up, and I have to say, I agree, it was iffy at best. Full auto, I did have a couple feeding issues, quite a few actually, and as far as actual effectiveness goes, the BBs do go farther and pretty accurately, at least with 0.25 gram BBs, but they still drop pretty bad. They go straight and then just drop. So something to certainly take into consideration when it comes to this hop-up unit. Once you've finished adjusting it and you want to release your bolt catch, you can push in this button located on the top of the cheek rest. And voila, it snaps shut with a semi-disappointing clank. Alright, now with that last sad little disappointing clack, let's go ahead and get into the final conclusion of the APS UAR review. Starting off here with the things I didn't like. A, it feels pretty darn cheap. You've got the front half of the gun feeling very plasticky, like if you took a spill in a concrete hallway in CQB, it would crack and break and everything like that. And then you've got the back half of the gun, which feels pretty solid with the exception of that cheek rest, which is really crappy and falling apart all the time. So overall, the quality and build of the gun is decent. I definitely see it as very cheap though. The weight of the weapon, nicely done though, with the whole bullpup heavier in the back, gives you a more solid feel towards the rear of the weapon. The hop-up unit was ineffective and also pretty iffy when it came to feeding on full auto, so I would definitely recommend upgrading it if you were thinking about purchasing this weapon. Now, those two things being said, they're only two, but they're pretty big in my opinion. Things I did like, the look of the gun is awesome. I could see it customized with the rails in the front, just looking absolutely amazing. The multiple magazine releases are very practical. You know, you can eject your mags no matter what position you're in the game, pop in a fresh one. Mag compatibility with M4 mags, it's huge. Most guys in the field use M4 mags. Even if you don't have a spare, chances are somebody else will. The hidden battery compartment inside the pistol grip is also very practical and just generally kind of cool. The battery housing for the actual AEG battery itself, I don't love it, I don't hate it. Yeah, it's limited to stick-type batteries, but the fact that I could fit a 7.4 LiPo in there certainly does override it because I can still fit a decent battery. Other thing I did like, the easy disassembly and reassembly as well as the quick change spring feature. If you're a guy who plays ops, you can operate on this gun in the field pretty darn easily without having to go all the way back to the staging area and swap AEGs. Overall, I would recommend this to someone who's looking for a CQB or possibly field gun that looks unique and can be customized to be pretty cool. My main recommendation, go ahead and take your time with it. Spend money on accessories to maybe strengthen up that front half of the weapon, make it look a little bit better, and also take your time to upgrade it, because I could definitely see this gun being a monster if you took your careful time with it and actually made it that way. Out of the box, it's decent. You could definitely use it straight in a game, but keep in mind an ineffective hop-up and a very cheap feeling front could be things you want to take into consideration. So this has been Deathcray Airsoft's review of the APS Urban Assault Rifle Airsoft AEG. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.